What's up, y'all? So I want to make another video here, and I wanted to talk about living in truth and authenticity. And I woke up with this on my mind today. I got a message on Facebook from a cousin of mine, and it really motivated me more to make the video. He had said something about, he was like, I'm proud of you, cuz, and proud of your growth and who you become. And you know, that message meant a lot to me. Basically, you know, because if you know kind of how I was before, I was a reckless kind of guy. You know, I was living kind of uninhibitedly, and just reckless, you know, and living with that mind state, you know, was only going to end one type of way for me, and that was in a negative way. But the major epiphany for me, or the major thing that I think that made me evolve, was me discovering my own truth and starting to live my truth. And that was the big thing for me. And it was a long journey to get to truth for me, you know. It was a really long journey, and it took a lot of work, and it's still more work to be done. But once I started to know my own truth, I start to connect better with people. I start to understand myself more and why I did things, and my message started to resonate better with people. And it made me realize how much people appreciate truth and how much they need it, because it's something that's so rare. You know, in this world, we run into a lot of things that are artificial, you know, and mainly looking back at my own life, you know, I feel like I partially live like a somewhat like artificial type lifestyle. I was always creating these characters, and I'm such a obsessive person. Anytime I created these characters, I would go all in. You know, if it was Damien the rapper, Damien the poet, Damien the businessman, Damien the artist, Damien the street dude. And I feel like they are characters, and not to say that they weren't completely real, like they were an aspect of myself. But when I finally started moving and discovering my own truth, I started to know that it's partially artificial to deliver just one aspect of yourself and accept just that aspect as the truth in its entirety, you know, because I started to discover I was way more dynamic than what I chose to accept about myself. And looking back, you know, it's cultural influence. You know, cultural influence, you know, really leads us into having us pick and choose who we are. You know, like, I mean, even with our careers, like, people take these career titles and they own those titles for their life. You know, they be like, I'm a loan representative, I'm a real estate agent, I'm a lawyer, and that becomes their identity. But that's not your identity. You know, that's what you do. And it's probably just something you do, one of the things that you do. You know, so on my journey, when I sat down and started to like dig into myself and stop looking outside of myself, that's when things got greater. You know, I stopped looking externally at the world for who I should be and started looking inside myself for who I was, looking at my core. And I started to realize who I am and who we all are. That's our greatest asset. But somehow we disown that because we start to become self-serving for survival. And we start to just serve what works for us to live comfortably. And comfort is really the huge killer of people's souls evolving. You know, we've been sold this dream that comfort is the ticket, but comfort is where the deception lies. And yeah, so basically, I think when a person starts moving into being more authentic and living more authentically, that's when a person starts to become free, because there's different levels of freedom. But that's when a person starts to become free, when they start to get real with themselves. And once you start to get real with yourself, then you can truly say then you can be real with the world, and then you can truly say you a real dude or a real woman. But if you haven't came to terms to be real with yourself yet, that's not something you can say, because you're still living under the deception. If you haven't taken the time to really do a thorough analysis of who you are, what you like, what you desire, what your goal is, what your ultimate agenda is, what purpose you want to serve, what you want to get a world. And each of us got something to get a world. You know, each of us got a duty, but somehow we lose that, getting caught up in the daily hustle. And we lose ourselves. And we lose everything that we have to offer. And it's sad. And, you know, I read this quote back in college that really stuck with me. It was from David Thoreau. He said, most people die with the song still in them. And it was deep, you know, and it's true. Most of the greatest ideas and things that could have changed the world or evolved the world or at the graveyard, because people live too comfortable and too scared and too fearful to just get a world them. So they died artificially. And I think the greatest blessing that you can get out of this life is coming to the terms to live your truth, live authentically, and be unafraid to do it. You don't owe nobody an explanation for why you are who you are. God created you. And it's your duty to provide the world with who you are, against all odds. So, I'm not gonna go into too much depth, but that was just on my heart to make a video about that. And I hope y'all got something out of it. And I don't care how you've been living or what you've been doing. Today's a new day. If you've been in a box and you've been living artificially, don't sit up and beat yourself up about it. Decide to change. Start to do the work. And it's a journey. It's a long journey. I mean, I didn't fall into truth overnight. I lived crazy for years. I lived all different type of ways, and nothing ever worked. And I had to get real with myself. And once I started to get real, that's when things started aligning, and things still are aligning. So my biggest suggestion for anybody out there that's bumping their head, that's going through trials, and got things going on in their life, and they just like, what do I do? Where do I go? I can't get nothing right. How do I get this right? Just start one place. Start to become more real with yourself. Start to dig inside yourself. Start to spend time with yourself. Start to love yourself. Start to appreciate your company more than you appreciate anybody's company. Start to acknowledge things about yourself like somebody else acknowledge them about you. Start to understand why you do those things. You know, and until you know yourself, there's always going to be a lack of commitment to things. Because if you're living artificially, how truly committed can you be to anything? Because there's always going to be a part of yourself that's a liability that could get in the way with where you're going. So we call this preventative maintenance. Take the time to become more real with yourself so you can become more real with the world.